Welcome to Blackspot. Today, we are peeling back the layers on a story that has absolutely captivated and horrified the world, the Jeffrey Epstein Files. We're going to look at the scandal everyone thinks they know, and then we're going to dig deeper into the hidden machinery of power and control that seems to be operating just beneath the surface. Let's just start right here with a quote that, looking back now, is just absolutely chilling. This is from Donald Trump back in 2002. It gives you this raw, unfiltered glimpse into his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, years before the full horrifying picture came out. It really frames their connection in a way that's pretty tough to ignore. Okay, so to really get what's going on here, we have to deconstruct this thing piece by piece. We'll kick off with the public story, then look at the man himself, unravel his network of elites, dig into his very mysterious death, and then we'll zero in on Donald Trump's deep, deep involvement. And finally, we're going to ask the big one. Was this all part of a much larger system of control? Right, so let's start with what most of us see. The recent release of these files, it just lit a political firestorm. Everybody started pointing fingers at everybody else. So the story you've probably seen splashed all over the headlines is one of a fallen billionaire, a convicted sex offender, and a laundry list of famous names. It's basically become a political football, right? Kicked back and forth between Democrats and Republicans to attack each other. But this surface-level drama, as shocking as it is, really hides a much darker, much more calculated reality. So, who was Jeffrey Epstein really? He wasn't just some disgraced financier. If you look at his history, his entire life is like a blueprint for manipulation and for breaking every rule in the book. Now, look at this timeline. What's so fascinating here is the pattern. This isn't just some criminal's resume. It's like a masterclass in how to exploit powerful systems from the inside. He gets hired without a degree, fired for misconduct with students, fired again for financial crimes, walks away clean from a massive Ponzi scheme, and then somehow gets total control over a billionaire's entire fortune. This wasn't a sudden fall from grace. This was a lifelong career in exploiting people and systems, a skill he would later take to a global level. And that brings us to his network, his incredibly powerful friends. The real question isn't just who was in it, but what was it for? What was the actual purpose of this whole globe-trotting operation? And at the very heart of this operation was his private jet, which got the infamous nickname the Lolita Express. This plane was not just for luxury travel. According to flight logs, victim testimony, this was the main transportation for flying high-profile people and horrifically underage girls to his private properties all around the world. And just look at the kind of people on these flights. We're talking figures from both sides of the political aisle and even royalty. You've got Donald Trump, listed as a frequent guest. You've got former President Bill Clinton with more than 24 documented trips on that jet. And of course, Prince Andrew from the British royal family, directly accused by victims and even photographed with them. This was not some fringe operation. This involved people at the highest levels of global power. But here is the absolute crucial point. The public story is about sex trafficking, but many investigators and sources believe the real purpose was something far, far more sinister. The theory is that Epstein's homes, his island, were all wired with hidden cameras, and the goal? To record everything his powerful guests were doing, creating this massive library of blackmail material, an insurance policy, if you will, that gave him leverage over some of the most influential people on the entire planet. And then, just as it seems this whole web is about to be exposed, its architect, Jeffrey Epstein, dies. And he dies under extremely suspicious circumstances in a maximum security federal jail. The official story we're given is suicide, but the unanswered questions, they are just overwhelming. The CCTV footage from right outside his cell during the incident? Oh, it's missing. Gone. His cellmate? Conveniently transferred out just the day before. And maybe most damning of all, independent forensic experts pointed out broken bones in his neck that are much more consistent with strangulation than with hanging. It all just fuels this belief that he was silenced to protect the powerful people he could have exposed. And that brings us to the connection that has caused a political earthquake. It's a perfect case study in just how deep these ties went. Donald Trump's extensive and very well-documented relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Let's just start with a number. 600. In the thousands of pages of documents that were recently unsealed, Donald Trump's name comes up over 600 times. This isn't some footnote. It is a recurring theme that points to a very deep, very long-standing relationship. So what does the evidence actually show? Well, his name, his phone numbers, his addresses, they're all in Epstein's infamous Black Book, multiple times. Flight logs show he was on the Lolita Express at least 7 times. And most disturbingly, he's actually named as a witness in an FBI complaint by a victim who describes just horrific crimes. There are even reports about a photo of a check, allegedly from Trump to Epstein, as payment to procure a victim. Now, here's what makes this whole thing even more explosive. For years, Trump and his supporters promised they would bring transparency. They campaigned on a pledge to release the Epstein files, framing it as a way to expose the corruption deep inside the political establishment. And then, a complete 180. After he's in power, his own Department of Justice and FBI release a memo officially closing the investigation, and their stunning conclusion? That no such client list even exists. A promise of total disclosure turned into a declaration that there was absolutely nothing to disclose. Well, you can imagine how that went over. This sudden U-turn caused a massive backlash, even among Trump's own base. A lot of his most passionate supporters, who had been promised this great unmasking of the corrupt elite, suddenly felt totally betrayed. They started accusing their own leader of being part of the very cover-up he swore he would dismantle. So, all of this begs the biggest question of all. Was this really just about one man's twisted, depraved crimes? Or was Epstein just a cog in a much, much larger machine? One of the most persistent theories out there, one that's been discussed by serious investigative journalists, is that Epstein's operation was never really his own. It suggests that his wealth, his protection, it all came from him being the frontman for a honeypot operation. That's an intelligence tactic that uses seduction to create blackmail, and that it was run by a foreign agency, with Mossad being the name that comes up most often. And the goal? To entrap and control powerful American politicians and business leaders.
So this is what it all boils down to. Was Jeffrey Epstein just a monstrous predator who used his money to commit unspeakable crimes? Or was he something far more dangerous? An intelligence asset, a key player in a sophisticated operation designed to get leverage over the world's most powerful people and, through them, influence global politics.
When you really strip away all the political noise, the Epstein story is a terrifying look into where wealth, power, and secrecy all meet. It shows how these elite networks can operate completely above the law, and how systems are designed not to fail, but to protect the powerful, even when their crimes are brought into the light. The files might be unsealed, but the full truth, it feels like it's still buried deep. And it leaves us with one final chilling question. If a system this vast can protect the powerful, what else aren't we seeing? To keep questioning the official story, make sure you subscribe to Blackspot. Thanks for tuning in.